My neighbor, wrong ones all over the place. Sorry, guys. There it is. That's the one. My neighbor was, how do you say, testing his engine for a doom buggy, I think he uses. Yeah, and anyway, it seemed to go well, and I forgot how much of a reflection this is to have right here. Hang on, let me minimize that and turn it away, because it is too much light. It's too much light for us all. There we go, that's much better. There we are. Anyway, so yeah. What was I talking about? Yeah, my neighbor was testing his engine. It was very loud and hard to deal with the recording. But yes, hello everyone. My name's Jared Bernard and welcome to Robin's Hood. He's still testing the engine. I'm going to talk over it because, well, that's what I came here to do. Anyway, yeah, I came here today to talk to you about a few questions I get asked when I'm online and doing things about Robin's Hood. Yeah, I think just some reflections I have over the videos I've made. So the biggest question I get asked is, I think it's what's interesting is I understand it, the question more as like an instinct, like people are just like, it sounds like a scam, like it's like you feel it in your body, someone's just gonna give me something, like, yeah, I get it, because that would, I think, be my first response. And it's a tough one to break down because there's a couple layers. But the real first one, I think, is when you look at the money, I don't know how this could ever be a good scam. So if I first off break it down, the cost of what it took to make all this was roughly around $5,000 plus a little for some other things that I'm probably not accounting, maybe a little more. And since I'm giving away money once we make the first $2,000, so we make $2,000, right? I chop it in half. Give $1,000 away on the website if you're registered. Remember, it's free. It's all there. Then we've only made $1,000. So the first time I do it, bang, you guys get the 1,000. But let's say the first time I don't do it, right? Like the first time we make that 2,000, I come up with a reason, I come up with an excuse. It's like, I don't know how that wouldn't just absolutely destroy my credibility. Like, people wouldn't just stick around for that part of it, right? Like, I hope you're enjoying the content. Like, that's a big part of my goal is I want to create things for people and show that in creating things I can make enough with the things that are available for making money to cover my costs and make a living for myself. It'll be moderate, it'll be modest, more modest than I think it would be if I wasn't doing the giveaway, or depending on, I'm rambling. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, so if we're looking at the money, I don't give away that $2,000. I just lose a lot of my credibility, right? I lose, and then with loss of credibility, regardless of how good of my content, I think I lose my audience, because one of my major premises is this desire to give away, right? Like I feel this as authentic, and the only way for me to convey that to you is to do the action with it. So that's that. Like if I don't give away that first giveaway, then I lose the money that I've put in, and I lose the chance at making the money that I've put in. So I feel like that right there kind of makes one element to acknowledge it. The second is that there's no cost in terms of money. Like, I'm never gonna ask you for money. You guys I have things that people can donate if they like the project. There's some stuff set up. It's done through Twitch. I'm going to be looking into more, because I want people to have different options of how they want to donate if they want to. But it's only if you want to, and there's no, like, that doesn't increase any odds to win. Everyone has the same chances. It's free to register. You don't have to watch my content to be a part of it. If you don't like me at all, but you want to win some of the money, do it. I want people to have a better chance at participating in the world's economic landscape. I think I've put it that way before. But anyway, so that's the one of the major things for me in terms of how I can address this as not a scam. It's not going to cost you anything financially. There is a little bit of your time. The bare minimum is, like, did you take the time to look at the website and register? If you do that, That's the maximum amount of time. And I understand the registry thing. Like, I am asking you for some of your personal information. I made it as clear as I can that I'm not going to sell any of that. I do have an outlining term in my rules where I'm not legally allowed to sell anything, and I think that's as close as I can get to that. I've also outlined how I use Shopify, or sorry, is it Shopify? No, Spotify. Oh, I think it's Shopify. Let me double check. Me and my terrible memory of these sort of things. Shopify, yeah, sorry. So yeah, in Shopify, I'm using their security, so I'm as secure as they are, and that's that for that. So I'm not, your information will not be sold. That time requirement is the cost. That's what I'm asking of you. And if it's too much, I understand. I'm not going to judge anyone. There's no, the only thing to really remember is if you do want this to succeed, we need to share it and talk about it and like it, and the popularity is the economic draw. And so hopefully I can be a shining star in somebody's life, and I can, do something good for this with this. But anyway, so that's most of what I can think of to say about it being a scam. It doesn't cost anything. Doesn't cost anything financially. I'm at a loss if I walk away at $2,000. Yeah, absolutely. That's been a thing. I've been in talks with quite a few people. I have about 10 people or so that have said yes already. They have, a life. They've said yes, or I have asked them partially because of how much they do, and how much they do makes them really busy. So we've only booked one, and it's still sort of tentative. So we're waiting to make sure that's solid. Everything's going to be at least a week in advance, so nothing's solid yet. But we do have, that is the plan. Thanks for asking there, Decibel Point, or Daryl Decibel. Sorry, dude. Anyway, what was I talking about there? I was talking about how the best way that I could describe how this isn't a scam. I don't have a point at which I can walk out and really make a lot of money without people seeing it coming. Like, there's the popularity. I just I don't see this as I don't see a way. And if you guys can tell me, let me know, and then we can try and isolate a way to cut off the loophole, because I don't want to. I wanted this to be as clear as possible, or as transparent as possible, so people are totally able to see that I am trying to make it so that not only can I take advantage of this, but can I not take advantage of this, but can I become responsible for making sure it's giving things to people. So anyway, that's that in terms of Robinhood. There was a couple things I wanted to go over in the video. The videos about the making people feel, and taking responsibility for our thoughts and or not our thoughts, but our feelings, but our also our actions. And there was when I had talked about, what was it, paraphrasing, and this is going to be a hard one to connect in, but when I talked about paraphrasing, there was some question about keep doing it until you hear yes. And the way you do that so that the conversation doesn't get derailed is take responsibility for it. Like, even if it's not your fault that what happened is someone's gotten upset. And this is always in the terms of that the conversation is still safe. You still feel like you can take responsibility without somebody taking physical action. Because there's a time, and I'm not saying that you are responsible if someone ever takes physical action, but there's just there's times when we can sense it in a conversation, and if you do, that this is not the way to go. But if you're in a place where you're trying to understand what somebody's saying and you're paraphrasing what they're saying, and in paraphrasing they are either getting upset or it's not being understood, say, like, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't understand yet. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying, like, make it your fault that you don't understand. And and that's again, like I said, as long as you feel safe to do so, and that you don't feel the need to get away from that conversation. But the more you can take responsibility for it, the usually the like someone's frustration and anger is going to bring them forward. They're going to have like this their brow's going to knit and their body's going to lean into you a little more. And when that happens, like if you back up, hands go up, and you just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand." Right? Like, and you're that's a way of disarming someone, and you'll see it in them. Right? They'll back up a little bit. They'll maybe take a breath. Their heels will hit the ground. Like their body will rest back a little bit. And so that's just one way, and I find usually the most effective way to disarm that particular end of that conversation going bad. So it's around trying to paraphrase when somebody is not feeling understood, and you're using the I statements. I feel da 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 da, and then when you this one's going sideways too, or not too, but because was it trying to keep my mind around remembering what the video was, and then trying to speak to some of the questions that had gotten asked, and things I'd talked to people about. But anyway, you know what? That one I'm gonna let that one go, because that actually brings me into the other segment of like discovering myself in this process, and like that's been a major topic for me, and I think it's just such an interesting challenge in the world right now to be healthy and meet the demands of the world. And I think that's something that in myself I've actually always felt an inability. I've never felt like I had either a behavior or a script, or I never was able to do what the world sort of asked and meet what my body and my mind felt they needed. And it's always been this intense divide, and there's been times when I felt like I've been doing better than others. But this process is an interesting one for me, because it actually, like, it has that demand, because I am trying to meet an audience. I am trying to speak to a group of people, but it also has, it's always here, right? Like I live where my studio is. I can do this at any time and any day, and as long as I've decided that I'm going to take my physical needs or my physical and mental needs, which I guess answer my emotional needs, as first priority. And I'm never going to abandon the show in terms of as long as I still see it as something that is beneficial to people and myself. But I am going to be putting myself first in the day. And so that's why I haven't really nailed down a schedule yet. I'm going to try, like right now, that's something I'm kind of learning to listen to within myself. Like I'm trying to pay attention to when does my body do a good job of waking up. Like I haven't woken up with energy in a long time. And it's interesting is the more I get into this project, the more that starts to happen. I find myself like, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to get up and start talking on here, and start sharing both my thoughts and my feelings and ideas I've had over my lifetime. And I've been in a lot of positions to help people. Like it's something that's just sort of been important to me. I don't know. It's something I've felt. And every time I got myself into a place or a position where I saw a demographic that looked like help was something that was needed, and I would do what was taught to me and told to me that was part of help, and then there would just be something missing. There was a disconnect between the individual who was both requiring help but there was often a disconnect, and that help made them somehow not have something to give. They didn't have as much to give to society, and so there was this whole disconnect from their opinion in their own help, and we also have this huge issue of having to help and educate what is it the average of people, like people who are like the like I guess you say like the was it the was it 20% to 80% average people. Those people sort of work well within the system, and it works for them. But then you got like the top 20, like the 80 to 100 like percentiles, and then the like bottom 20, those ones, like, and even like there's a bunch of fluctuation in between numbers around like the was it 2030s and like was it 70 60s. But even that, like those people who are function within those, let's say that was it test ranges, the systems aren't designed for them, and they either get left behind. There's behavior developments that there's so much that we just aren't exploring well yet. And while I was working in those help systems, I got was it overrun by how little help was being done, and I really wanted some of this coffee. I just didn't take any sips. I'm sorry. And so I feel like I've learned from that experience. I learned what I need to be doing in this, and it's definitely using allowing this to happen around my life more than really make it and make a demand out of me, though there will be nonetheless. Anyway, so I had a question I didn't answer. Do you use a digital calendar to help you organize your time and tasks? I do not. That is one of those things that like I've tried multiple times, and there's an experience I have around planning that it's definitely not natural, or it's it's a natural. It's not neurotypical. That's a better answer, and I don't know if it's a gap in experience or a gap in chemical, but when I use calendars that like really represent what's happening, I experience anxiety and I get lack of sleep, and then I'm just not completely unable to apply myself to the calendar the next day. And it's a strange one. It's not what do you call it, new or old, one that's been long for me. It's fairly new. It's not something that I've had for a long time. In fact, anxiety in general is not something I've really experienced a ton, except for like social anxiety. I think I've always had social anxiety, but yeah, that's like it's an interesting one. I'm learning my way around it, and that's kind of the thing I think I'm trying to figure out is what is the experience I need to feel comfortable around making plans, because there's this thing in me that once things become solid, the whole like what if and then what can occur. Like it just, I don't know. I don't have a coping mechanism yet, but I'm working on it, and that's one of the ones. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that was some of my personal reflection, I guess. It's a lot to go over, a lot to mull over. Today's video is a mashup. Yeah, I do have a calendar system I use, so I write things down, and then I just put lists down, and then my lists will have dates on them if I'm going to move them, but they're movable, like I can move them, and there's something about like the digitizing. It's interesting. I don't know that it's about not following through. Yeah, I don't even think I know. Like, anxious it's the attention to my anxiety is a new one. So learning how to be aware of it is that's been a process I've been kind of undergoing over the last little while. Paying attention to like how am I breathing, what's my thought pattern, what words am I hearing over and over in my head, and so like that's kind of where I am with my anxiety. Yeah, like I'm at the point of trying to really acknowledge it, so that way when I'm experiencing it, I have tools to deal with it. I think there's been some really intense surprises for me over the last I'd say like 3 years. Things like just really wide range of things I didn't anticipate, and they were both of myself and others, and and situations, just circumstances that I didn't anticipate. And I'm usually pretty good with anticipating circumstance, and that's one of the things that I think really is a part of it. Is just something I used to be really good at, being able to have participate in predictors, and then I had a bunch of things that just like do, and it's funny because logically I know that I still have that capacity. I know that when I participate in tasks and do things that, like even look at even a video game, right? A video game has a ton of required predictors, and I feel totally comfortable. But I guess a video game is not fair because the environment's safe, right? Like you're in a safe environment, so it doesn't quite relate. And so, like, you don't have as many real world consequences as many. Anyway, sorry. So, yeah, it's wow. That's a trip. So, what I think we just written this was somebody who, like, I just experienced running into something that is both a trigger and a challenge. So, I talking about my own anxiety, which is for sure a trigger for my anxiety, and it's a challenge to address because I'm not totally present to it. So when I started saying and looking down, I was literally looking within myself to try and find words to represent the experience, but I don't have them because I'm still pretty blind to it. So that was just interesting. That's the sort of the way you can understand the mind works, and if you start to look at those sort of moments, it can be easier to break down your experience of the world. Yeah, so that's literally what I hope this channel becomes more of, is me getting to challenge my own perception of the world and go into it. So thanks a lot for those questions. Thank you for that. That's exactly what I hope this can become. A process that'll help people reflect, because I feel like other people are going to have a similar experience. Like somebody else in the world knows anxiety, I imagine, way better. They probably even are. So there's somebody that's going to watch this and go, oh yeah, I remember doing that. So I feel like that's a very relatable moment. I really appreciate that. Love you too, man. Yeah, huge. This is an old friend. Old friend. Yeah, huge. It's those people who can really see you. And what's interesting is actually I've noticed in myself, like I have a lot of really great friends in a really awesome community, and Daryl Decibel is definitely one of them. In fact, probably a founding member. And I've really lost touch with them over the years. I've taken time away. And it's interesting because I think some of these surprises and some of these things, they've impacted me in a way that made it harder to reflect with positivity. And so when I would see the people I loved, it's like I wanted to report back love. I wanted to report back the things I loved about the world and the things I loved in my own life, and there was just so few because I'd really let this impact me. And I think there's a reality for the value of the truth of the impact, because I do believe that the things that have occurred, they mattered. They mattered to me, and I think they mattered to the people that were involved, and I think that's fair. It's just a fair thing to say. But I also think it's how do you call it? It's just time. It's time to start being someone else, and that's one of the things I talk about. Is we are constantly in the presence of who we are, and I've been in the presence of someone who hasn't reached out enough and hasn't been in contact enough, and that's something I intend to change. And for those of you who have loved me, I know that I can be challenging. And for those of you I love, I appreciate your patience, and I look forward to, I don't know, all the future conversations. But anyway, I think that's a wrap for this one. I felt all that. That was good. I honestly thought I was going to come on here and talk for like 5-10 minutes and just kind of like go over a few of the things. But yeah. So yeah, that's some of my life, some of me in a nutshell. If you have any questions, any conversations, anything you'd like to talk about, leave a comment in this or leave a comment in the section down below. Any questions about my website, it's down there. And if if you're, oh yeah, I'm playing. If we finally got Deus Ex Human Revolution going and working, so I'm going to be starting that. I'm going to say, let's go. Oh, am I hungry yet? I don't think I'm hungry yet. I should eat though. I feel like, oh, I'm gonna eat a little bit. I think we're gonna shoot for 2:30. I've just noticed that when I like jump from one thing to another, it kind of like there's just this weird gap. Aw. Thanks. Thank you, Teresa. I don't know if people want to know about if people want to talk about the relationships we have there, but hey, thank you. Yeah, I love you. I love you. And thanks for tuning in and talking. Yeah. But yeah, oh, sorry. We're what is it? We're playing Deus Ex Human Revolution, and it's a game that was recommended to me by someone who I think of very highly in terms of his opinion. If I disagree with something he likes, I'm right in my opinion, but probably wrong artistically. There's a good chance. Though I don't know. He's just a all around good guy. He's a good supporter of the show as well. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. It looks really interesting. I'll be posting about it in the next like 5 minutes. There'll be a link to it there on the things in the posts. I gotta remember to post on Twitter. Twitter is this weird, obscure space to me. Like, I think it's just like if I wasn't dyslexic, it would be inviting, but it's really this wall of like, okay, there's just so many opinions and words, and like the thing is like with dyslexia, you look for these key words, but people are really just talking about so much shit that doesn't matter, that there aren't any, right? Like I'm like, there's no what? Like, yeah. Anyway, I got a video coming up on the difference between comments and questions, and I think we're in a comment culture that doesn't ask enough, and there's a whole philosophy behind that. Anyway, I'm rambling, and that's because I like to do that. Yeah, you might be right on that name. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys in about a half an hour. Talk to you soon. Oh, that's wrong. Oh no, now I'm gonna, my computer's confused because I've told it to do something. I don't think it's confused, actually. It knows what it's doing. I know confused. I just want it to be confused because I like to personify things. I did mean Twitter. Did I not say Twitter? Oh, I thought that said lep. Well, did you mean? See, like that said lol yep Twitter, and I read lol. Did you mean Twitter? I don't know how. That's what I read, but I read did you mean Twitter? But that's not what was written there. That's not what happened. Anyway, that's a small experience of my brain on words. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you guys later.